G'day. So today we're going to continue off with what we left with in the last tutorial, but we're going to now look at, instead of opening and closing forms, we're going to use that new form we created to create a little quiz question or something along those lines. Now there's a couple of ways we could do this, but this is just one of them. So if you want to do something different, that's okay. But just follow on this tutorial and have a go at creating them as you see in this tutorial, and then once we've done that, you can look at other methods of making quiz questions. So first of all, if the quiz question only has one correct answer, then what we need to do is use a radio button. Now, radio buttons are a bit like checkboxes that you are probably quite familiar with. So they will just search for radio button in the toolbox over here. We'll put one there. But with radio buttons, you can only have selected one at a time. So if we used a checkbox, like this one, so as you can see, they're almost identical. You can actually have multiple checkboxes checked, but you can only have one radio button checked at a time. So if you had a multiple choice question, you want to use the radio buttons, because otherwise you'd be able to check all of the answers, which is not really the point of how quizzes work. You should only be able to pick one answer. So the first thing we're going to do, we'll just delete those, is, for the sake of neatness, we're going to put our question inside something called a group box. So let's search for group box in the toolbox. There it is. We'll drag it up to be a decent size. Now let's put in a label, and that way we can have our question there. We'll call the label LBL question, which stands for label and then question, and we'll give it some text. Is it sunny today? Okay, now we won't really know the real answer to that, but anyway, it's a question. All right, so let's put in some radio buttons now. So this question will only have two answers, 1 and 2. If you have 4 answers, then obviously you just put in 4 radio buttons. Line them up. Okay. We'll call this RB for radio button. Correct. And then this radio button will have our correct answer. So let's pretend it's sunny every day, and we'll give it the text sunny. And it was sunny today, so this is the correct answer for today. All right. Now we'll get our wrong answer, and we'll call it false or wrong, whichever works better for you. Now, if you're going to have multiple answers, then you might have wrong 1, wrong 2, wrong 3. But I've only got 1, so RB wrong is fine, and we can say howdy. Okay, there we go. Now we have a quick little question here that we can use. So let's just test it. Yep, that makes sense. Nothing really happens just yet, but that's okay. Close back down. All right, so now to make that actually do something, we're firstly going to need a button. Let's put in a button. And we'll need a text box. Okay. Now we can call the text box, up in the name field here, TXB, which stands for text box, output. Okay. There we go. We'll line it up there. And we can call our button BTN, which is button for short, and run. Give it the text submit. Okay, so now we've designed a little interface that we can output our answer to. Now let's actually make this question work. Now this will actually involve some code, so you'll have to follow on a little carefully from here, and you might have to pause the video and rewatch bits, but you'll be right so long as you follow the directions carefully. Okay, so first thing we want to do is double click our submit button. Okay, that creates some application code, an event code that we can run. And the first thing we want to do is remember the names of those radio buttons. Now, what we're going to do here is called an if statement. Basically, it's how computers make decisions on how to choose between two different things. So to do an if statement, it's quite simple. So if brackets, and then after those brackets, we put in a squiggly bracket. Now, how this works is if whatever inside these brackets here is true, then the program will run this code. After which, we can type in else and put in more squiggly brackets. So if that wasn't true, then it'll run this instead. So in this way, we can take something, some input from the user and make a decision on what we're going to do with it. So in our case, we'll be choosing to make a choice based on which radio button they pressed. Okay, so how do we make this decision? So first of all, we need to remember the name of that checkbox, the one that was the correct answer. So in my case, I called it RB correct. And then we want to check if this was checked, if the user clicked on it, which is called checking it. So we put in a dot and then checked. Then we have an equal sign, and then we type in true. So if RB, we actually need two equal signs. Sorry. It's a bit funny. So whenever you're making an if statement, an equal sign in the code is actually two equal signs together. Now, it's a mistake I constantly make, so don't feel bad that if just down the road you do it, but it is how you do it. So RB correct dot checked, two equal statements equals true, and then let's output some text to that text box. And we can do that by typing in the text box's name. So whatever we called it, it was txb output. Now dot text equal signs, and we can put in correct, because if it's checked, if they checked the RB correct dot checked, if that equals true, then they've picked the right answer. Else txb output dot text again to access the text box as text, and then we want to put in wrong. Okay, so let's give that a test. Oh, correct answer, cloudy, wrong answer. So that's basically how you can make a very simple multiple choice question. Okay, so have a crack at making a couple of those, maybe jazz up the interface a little bit more than I did, some pictures, and see how you go. All right, signing off.